I kind of helped create Artist Elite with a couple of other people, and it's meant to be a group of artists and creators that can come in and do their own thing, like create whatever they want, no boundaries, like have fun, support each other, almost like a network of creators, you know. Obviously it helps whenever we're promoting each other's stuff, it always helps everyone. So that's kind of the goal is of Artist Elite, is a group, you know. And it's been going good. We're still in our infancy, I feel, but it's been going really good. But anyway, that was my name.
I was about to say your name. I'm Ryan Kincaid. Yeah, I prided myself to be on this panel, so. Okay. I do a lot of cover art, Dynamite, DC, a bunch of stuff like that.
Chad Harden, ex-felon. No, I'm totally not.
Show your info.
That's why he's got to sit there in the distance.
You probably know me best from Harley Quinn, but after Harley, I really wanted to just focus on creator owned, and so when Tyler Ali called me up, I didn't even know what it was. I was just like, I know Tyler, and I know, you know, I was like, yeah, let's do it. So, yeah, good times, good times.
I'm Jon B. I'm nobody special. There's going to be Q&A at the end, so please feel free to think about your questions. We don't have a mic or anything, so I mean, these guys, they're really easy to talk to.
Oh
So
my goodness, this is about to be one big Q&A.
let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it. You guys have any questions before we get started? But I'm curious more about Artist Elite and how you guys all formed.
Yeah, so
Big bottle of tequila.
should we do this dumb idea? It was overrated. It sounded amazing at the time, but so did everything else. Obviously there's other avenues to publish books. There's IDW and Boom and stuff like that, but this was meant to be like something where we control our own destinies. Like it's not a traditional publisher. It's something where we are basically our own. You know, we market ourselves and we get the support of the other creators. And we own we own everything that we do, like Image, but you know, Image, they have different things. You have to pay a fee, this and that, right? But so we wanted another avenue, basically. Like, you know, bring my friends in and just like do our stuff, like just do whatever we wanted. So I got with Ali Garza, who is another artist and creator, and you know, he's obviously done a lot of creator-owned stuff too. And then we got Sean from Comics Elite, and that's kind of where the Artist Elite came from. It's not affiliated, but it just kind of worked out that way. And he's kind of the other guy that's been helping us with all of our everything else, really. Everything besides, you know, drawing. And then we wanted to start it out with, we were originally going to do crowdfunding stuff, and then we switched gears because we just wanted to do traditional comic book store sales like that. We're like, let's do this. Like it's good for us. It's good for the comics. It's good for the retailers and everything. So we're starting it out with our Artist Elite presents like anthology series. So I was on the screen to show you guys any art, but so hopefully you get to
Next year.
Kind of
and so the anthology series is a way for us to kind of just slowly grow like show you guys. It's a preview almost in a way. And then most of us are gonna release the single issues like after we kind of build it up a little bit. Right? Is that what it's
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a heavy metal like slap, you know what I mean? That's the whole format over like European comics and stuff. So yeah, so that's what we wanted to do, and each Artist Elite Presents issue has like 8 pages from 3 different creators, and then it rotates through the list of people we're working with. So there's a lot of possibilities there. Like for new people coming in, it's a perfect way to kind of jump in and try your project, and without a massive commitment. That was our thing. Is like a lot of us have other jobs or other comic jobs, or you know, doing Marvel stuff, whatever. And artist elite was meant to be something that didn't, don't quit your day job, basically. Come and, slowly build up your property, your IP, and your projects. And then whether you're building it up slowly through the anthology series and then releasing single issues, that's fine too. Because that way you only have to do 8 pages every once in a while, right? And you're building the story, but then later you can put out the collection or single issues. So there's just a lot of things we can do with it. And it's coming together. But we only have, we put out our primer red and blue issues, which were like our sketchbook kind of version, showing you, the black and white stuff, behind the scenes stuff, previews.
Introduction.
Yeah, and an introduction to all of the stories.
But hold on to them, because just like Malibu Sun, Spawn #1 was the first appearance of Spawn. First appearance of Spawn's Malibu Sun, which issue?
Yeah.
So.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Malibu Sun, which was a little, back in the day, Malibu Comics had like a tiny little inset book with previews. And most people, when they got the previews, they take those books and just chuck them. And that's the first actual appearance of Spawn, is Malibu Sun.
Gosh, I wish I had that.
So,
My mind's blown.
So, make sure you're buying the primer red, the primer blue. Make sure you're buying the anthologies because, when it comes to issue #1, it might be the first issue, but everybody's stuff is appearing in the anthologies and in the previews first. So,
What do we have?
A lot of first appearances.
Primer red, primer blue, Artist Elite presents them with
1 and 2. Right?
1 and 2 are out.
2 is out right now.
We missed 3 by 1 week. Isn't 3 out next week?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Yeah,
I know there was a plan on being out for New York for sure.
Yeah, we got
What is it, 26, 27?
Yeah. So you barely missed it.
Yeah, I wish we had. I don't have any. I have no artist space up here, so.
I sold
Okay,
it.
good.
I sold every issue we had.
Oh, good. Awesome.
So-
Yeah, some of us
Okay,
have
so-
New York.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, nothing.
And hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, there's really no boundaries to what we, because we all kind of own our own stuff, and they're,
We wanted to do whatever we wanted to do, together.
Well, you get told no a lot in comics, and I don't think people realize that. There's especially when you work for Marvel and DC,
Yes.
they have giant legal teams, and their whole job is to make sure that you don't do something stupid and get the company sued. And they almost have layer upon layer upon layer of protection to the point where you don't get to do the comic you want to do. It's homogenized, it's sterilized.
Oh, nice.
I love that ringtone.
This is Mario calling me.
That's right.
I gotta save the princess later. So.
It's a me. Hi.
Hold on.
We're out of here.
I'm at a panel.
Pause for a second.
Hi, Jeff. The chart. I should go over on the side of my truck or on the steps.
And this is why we have our street, because most people would get in trouble.
This is the professional part of the
Just
show.
all say hi.
You know what, though? If anybody else's wife called the same thing, yeah. Hey, babe.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not answering my phone.
No, I know.
Exactly.
I'm that bad, I just
I know
hung
it.
up on my wife when I stayed the night.
For a month,
Yeah.
So it sounds like to me, Artist Elite is creative minds coming together, doing basically original pieces that they want to do, not being told no, not having that kind of restriction, knowing that you have the support of your other artists and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even with like image, you have to submit your idea. And you have to have, unless it's changed, you can tell me from now. You have to have 5 issues done
I
before
think it's
the-
3. I think.
Is it 3 now?
I think it's
3 in the can is what they call it.
Okay, you have to have all these issues done before they'll even like, think about you being on.
Which is a
That's
huge
That's a
investment.
huge investment, it's a lot of money.
That's at least a half a year's
And
work.
time. So this is our way, literally like, when we do the issues, it's whoever's done. Like, who's gonna be in issue 6? Are you done yet? All right, you're in. Who else is done? Who wants to be in the next issue? And it really is even if you have those issues done, Image can be like, that doesn't really fit our model, we're not gonna go with that. Now what are you gonna do?
Well, I don't even think Image is doing superhero books.
Yeah, it's not, except for like Invincible, right?
Well, but I think,
I think,
Well,
but I think Robert,
yes.
I think Robert Kirkman actually finished Invincible.
but still, like, if, I think if you went with it, I think if you went with Invincible now to Image, unless you're Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
They're not gonna tell Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I have to change my name again.
right. But I think if I went to them, they'd just be like, we're not doing superhero.
So I'm just curious, what piece of work have you been told no for that has ended up through Artists Elite that somebody might have seen?
I don't know.
We literally just started, besides Tyler, we all started on a blank slate.
Yeah.
We all, like, let's do something fresh, like, we've never done it. Because I have properties that I publish on my own. And they're like, those are successful, but we want to do something brand new.
I think the only exception is when Chad and I were planning on Death Watch. This is actually something that him and I had in the works since
We've been kicking the can for,
Yeah, and we were just looking like, it was like, we need to get a publishing house, we need to get a publishing house for this. We where are we gonna sell this cool little, action horror thing? And then when Chad got a hold of me, because it was funny, it was, I think it was 2020, or the end of 2020, he got a hold of me. And he literally calls me up and he says, what are you doing? and then I'm like, well, nothing really, because unfortunately, I had a creator work I was doing. It was a sci-fi thing, and unfortunately, the publishing house had gone under because of the pandemic. And sad day. And unfortunately, I was like, well, I'm kind of doing nothing.
Well, then I told Jared that, and he already has 17 issues done, and I'm like, dude, I just finished like grade 9. Like, slow down, man. He's like, I'm writing the whole thing. I'm like, okay, all right.
So it's like I gotta keep busy here,
So did you guys have issues here, like any tables and stuff, or?
No. He's written them.
Yeah,
got the scripts.
That's like, it's 17 full scripts that I sent him.
That's awesome.
In fact, I'm still working on some stuff now.
I like it. Yeah, so with me, I had already put out the first volume of Final Boss, which is my project, through crowdfunding. And it was just kind of a natural fit. And I still might do, more special edition crowdfunded volumes of that. But I'll only release the single issues through Artists Elite. So you maybe have like one that has extra, content, sketches, whatever, maybe, character bios and stuff. So that's the other thing, is there really isn't, we can do what we want with our stuff. Like the only thing that we required was to don't put out anything that you've already been doing, just so to keep stuff fresh. But because I never actually officially published Final Boss, I'd probably release those, because this continues after the first volume. So if you just buy this, you might be lost on my project. That's the only thing that kind of sucks, but hopefully you just go get volume 1,
It's a good book. I'll take that. It's a good book. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's probably pretty clear as to what our goal is and stuff.
Well, and there's so many pitfalls. Like I did 2 issues of a creator-owned book, and the problem is with the creator-owned, it's so hard to make that your primary, like your main thing. And it was such a strain on the creative team because I had half the creative team like, come on, Chad, let's go. And then I'm like, look, I got 4 kids to feed. I got a mortgage. Like, this is, doing comics is my job. I can't just not take an assignment from DC, or I can't not take an assignment from Marvel. If Marvel and DC call, that's money in the bank. I know that's gonna happen. And so what happens is a lot of times you create your own projects get bumped. But just the way Artist League has it set up, you can sort of chip away at it. And to a creator who's doing stuff, you know, like I just finished the 30th anniversary of Harley, but I also finished my 8 pages for Artist League #3. If I had to do it the way I did my first project, Temerity, I'd have to get all 20 pages done. Then I'd have to pay the colorist. I'd have to print the books. I'd have to, there's just this huge financial burden involved with it. And it makes it almost, I'm not gonna say impossible, but it makes it very difficult. And then what happens is because it doesn't have this momentum, it just stalls out. Because people, eventually you gotta make money at some point on it. And so I think the way Tyler and Allie and Sean, thought it out was really ingenious. Because it allows me, basically, it's my weekends. I get,
Page here,
yeah,
page there.
do 2 pages a week and just keep cranking it. But here's the thing: if you guys support the book, books, I'll do it full time. Nobody wants to work for
That's the goal. Yeah.
Nobody, I don't wake up every day and be like, and don't get me wrong, I'm
like
thankful
being
for Marvel.
employed.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I like working for Marvel and DC, but at the same time, it's frustrating to see your work, like with Harley. They don't even give you a thank you in the movie credits. You know what I mean?
No.
And you're just like, really? Like you're gonna make a movie. You're gonna use the costume I designed. You're gonna use panels out of my book, and I don't even get a thank you in the special credits. It really sort of, you're like, what am I doing this for? So, it's a nice way to basically ease your way into a creator own, because you're running with a pack. You're not a lone wolf.
Right.
The pack of wolves can take down the woolly mammoth, but the one wolf alone is going to starve to death. And so I'm really appreciative.
You mentioned earlier that you all work at different paces anyway, so you all feel like you have the same kind of experience. You're working your day jobs with a larger comic book publisher. And you're also just chipping away kind of like your weekend. You all have similar experiences with
I
that?
don't know what a weekend is.
Sure.
You do lose track.
Yeah.
You lose track.
When you work from home, as long as you work from home, dates are non-existent unless someone reminds you. Days don't really work unless you do have kids and they have a schedule. I know it's Mondays because my kids got to go to this class. If it wasn't for that, I could literally be like, what days?
Yeah.
Thursdays and Friday. I don't know. In like the number date of the month, not even a clue. I couldn't tell you what today is.
We're lucky we got you in the panel today. I think you knew what time it was.
Oh yeah, my flight's like literally right after this. Once this is over, I gotta go pack up and catch a ride to the airport.
Oh, wow.
Dave. I mean, I was a bartender before that, so weekends didn't exist anyways. But you definitely have to adjust to a different lifestyle, being a comic book artist. But like everybody, growing up, we always heard that common cliche: if you love what you're doing, it's never works. Go try it. Screw you. It still works. That's tough. It's still, I love doing it, but man, there's days when I'm like,
It's fun work, but it's still work.
yeah. But the way that we're doing it, it really works out a lot. Especially because we all share, we can see what each other are doing for the most part. And when I see like Tyler turns in these things, I'm like, all right, motherfucker, like. And I think the feeling's mutual on the fact that we all see Brett Booth turn in like 4 books at once.
Wow.
So we're like, damn, I've got to pick it up. I gotta go.
Like that hosting competition.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That keeps that fire burning.
Yeah.
Every time I do a panel, I'm like, that was better than the last one I did. And then I see some someone else's panel, I'm like, man, that sucked. I gotta try a different approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Ali Garza, and I think some of the other people come from like this studio background. Like, I was at Top Cow for a while, he was at Wildstorm, and that's exactly how it was. Because they used to have like bullpen setups, So you would sit in there with like, Silvestri over here, or whatever, Dave Finch over here, Mike Choi, Dave Nakayama, and then of course he had all the Wildstorm, Jim Lee over here, and like,
Travis Cherry.
yeah, like Lee Bermejo, it's crazy. So that you're constantly trying to level up. Like, so it's cool. We share a Dropbox, and yes, it's awesome to be able to see like things coming in. Our editors and he shared a lot of stuff with us and stuff too. So
Yeah, thank goodness for Zen.
yeah.
Oh.
Thank goodness for Zen.
Zen is the best editor ever.
Yeah, he's great. Like he's been like between him and Sean, they do everything. Besides even Zen does a lot of creating because he does all the ads and all the Instagram stuff and everything. So.
The dude is a talent.
Besides the freedoms that you have, what are the biggest comparisons you feel like you have versus a bigger studio and Artists Elite?
I don't compare it to anything, only because I'm not knowledgeable of what was before all this, besides like Image and when they had Wildstorm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Essentially though, they all had a structure of rules they still had to follow. Whereas ours is more like, hey, does this sound like a good idea? Should we try this? Will it work? Like, ask everybody, should we do this? Yeah, that sounds great, let's do it. Or the one person like, really? You really think that's smart?
Yeah.
No, that's dumb. Right?
It's always you on.
It's probably I'll blame it on me. So
Well, for me, it's actually slightly different because I come from an independent background. Because I actually hadn't worked for any big studios prior to this. So this is actually like my first quote-unquote big project that I've ever done. So this for me is actually a whole new experience.
Well, Jared and I make a good team because we really like to collaborate a lot. And that's something, and don't worry, like there's certain creative teams that are very collaborative, like Marvel DC. Like Jimmy and Amanda when we were on Harley, it was awesome. But I would say the only people that I've had experience like that in my 14 years of comics, both at Marvel and DC, is like Mike Grell and Jimmy and Amanda. Most of the times, they wouldn't even give me the writer's email. Yeah. And it was almost like a closed door, like they, who was here for I talked about the Zatanna thing, like I didn't even get to talk to Paul D when I went to them at all.
That's right.
I couldn't call him, I couldn't ask him a question. Things were happening between me and editorial, and Paul was getting angry because I wasn't doing things the way he wanted it done, but he didn't know that editorial was telling me no. Like you can't do this, and so I literally had the publisher throwing me under the bus.
He didn't know the reason why.
Yeah, and he had no clue. He was like, this idiot can't draw Don Wrinkles? Like what the heck? And he didn't know that DC was telling me he can't draw Don Wrinkles.
Yeah. Those
Right, and so with this group, I knew everyone in the group with the exception of maybe Gunnarsson, I think. So the only
then why
one.
did you keep asking what my name is?
Do you guys find that the collaborative experience is key to what you guys do?
Dude, I will say for me, the funnest part right now is because between him and Ollie, they're kind of alternating covers. Like one of them is always on the cover. And you got Chad and you got, Brett. Seeing some of these guys work with the character that I created, like the inner kid in me is like,
Yeah.
Right, it's always awesome when you see other people doing your stuff.
yeah, so it's really cool for me that I see, when Tyler did my character and he hit me up. And that's the other thing is I don't have to email anybody. Like if I'm working with Chad on something, it's his character. I can call him and be like, hey, can you send me like the turnaround on that?
Yeah.
Tyler texted me, he was like, dude, that character is cool. Like I just did the cover for it. And I was like, what? Like let me see. Ollie calls me and gives me crap. Like, hey, you gotta do this. Okay. I don't have to email and wait, like, hey, made sure all that, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are gonna really change the way things are done in the creative field too. It sounds like what you described from the bigger studios is very office, very corporate, and it sounds like
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're putting the art first.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's probably, obviously people say like, early image stuff, but I think it was, you know, the same with them, it was created by the actual creators,
Right.
instead of
Putting the power back in the artist's hands.
Yeah. Well, I'm willing to open it to Q&A if anybody has any questions. I'm obviously moderating, so I'm being very implicit, but you guys are more than welcome to ask any questions.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's popping to your mind, or you guys can go on with other stories that I probably don't know any way of questioning, answering, asking. You
Tell, everyone should probably tell what their book's about.
Yes.
Yes, probably a good
So
idea.
mine is in issue 2, which is out now. It just came out a couple weeks ago, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zen?
Here, let's call it up and
Came
put it on
out.
speaker.
I'm not even lie. This is how good Zen is. Zen messaged me. Artist Presents debut is in stores now. It came out, last Wednesday. So the first part of mine is in issue 2. And yours, right?
No, 3.
Yours is in 3.
Yeah.
Mine's called Seraph the 7, and it's about like a fallen angel coming down to earth to basically stop a whole different kind of apocalypse. Now, it's not really biblical, it's not going to be religious, but it has to do with angels and demons. It's kind of like a Constantine on crack. Not literally, like he's not, the drug goblin. So he's fighting the 7 deadly sins. In the first issue you meet, he's going to go up against Glenn. And I'm just kind of playing with that role. I was watching a lot of, I did watch Constantine, and I was watching, what's the show? No. Supernatural. I was watching Supernatural.
What's in the box?
That and I get sued so bad.
There you go, yeah.
I was watching a lot of Supernatural and stuff. So I kind of came up with the ideas. You had Michael, you got, Gabriel and all those. Well, these were the ones before them. Like when all hell breaks loose, like he unleashes these guys. Like when even the archangels fail, these guys come down. So he's the last one going up against the saints.
So Final Boss is my thing. It's basically when video games and comic books collide. It's very, very heavily influenced on, fighting games, your Street Fighter, your Mortal Kombat, but not only that, more like the Double Dragon and Streets of Rage. I'm treating it as if I'm playing. It's stuff that I just love growing up. That's what I'm doing. It's basically that mixed with like old Jean-Claude Van Damme action films.
Nice.
Kickboxing online. So I'm building I'm acting as if it's a side-scrolling game in a way, and I'm building through those stages. So he fights a boss in every volume. He levels up. His stats change and grow because he absorbs energy from his defeated foes. And my plan is to have 10 volumes, or it would equal 20 single issues. And there's 10 total bosses that he has to get through. So I'm building his story through the comics as if it's a video game, but it's clearly not.
This kid just texted him about Pokemon. He doesn't want me to miss out on them little shiny things, apparently.
There you go.
Okay, so who wants to take
Go ahead,
this?
Jared.
Okay. I guess
You say your side of it, and I'll say my side of it.
Oh, okay.
See if they match.
Let's say they collide. But anyway, Death Watch is the story of a vampire hunter in the 19th century. And he basically travels around all of Europe, basically trying to save people from this hellish cult that's rising up all these different monsters. Pretty much it's Chad and I's homage to not only like classic horror movie cinema, but it's also our big homage to things like, say, the Castlevania franchise. And also for those of you who might be familiar with older anime, it's our big homage to things like Vampire Hunter D No, yeah.
So, and I think, and Jared, if I say something wrong, you correct me, but,
If I say
I
something.
I'll just
think
change
what
it.
happened is we were
Yeah.
both really pissed off at how successful Twilight was.
What's wrong with Twilight, man? Teabag.
We were like huge, you know, we're huge horror fans, huge, you know, like vampire genre fans.
Yeah.
And I had kids at the time, and I would, anytime they wanted to read a book, I would always read it with them. And my daughter was reading Twilight, and I was like, this is a hot, steaming pile of crap. I mean, I was angry for like a month, because I read all the Twilight books, and they killed, like, you know, hats off, and I'm never gonna diss someone's hustle. But those books were bad.
I think, yeah.
That's the only series that I've read outside of high school, like when they make you read Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah.
I read the Twilight books. I haven't read the book since.
Well, I
Like,
think
this is what I'm supposed to be doing. No,
well, I think it was you, Chad. I think it was you who actually had said, like, when we first initially started creating this idea, you had come to me and you said, can you write me a proper vampire story?
Yeah, I was like, none of this sparkling vampire, you know, can I swear? Are there kids in the room? Earmuff kids, you know. But I was, you know, I'm just, and here's the thing, I would gripe about it, and I'd gripe about it, and I'd gripe about it, and all my writer friends were like, well, put your money where your mouth is. You know, like, if this is such a bad book, and you hate on it so much, let's see what you can do. Like, so now it's a personal challenge. I must bring down the Twilight vampire.
Here we
I'm
go.
not gonna lie,
Vampires
I agree with that, because that's how I feel about all the movies that people diss on. Like, this
Yeah.
was Morbius, this was
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
You do it better.
Yeah, can you do it better? And I'm like, hold my beer.
I know I can with some stuff, but yeah, I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
But I also don't think most of it is garbage.
So our vampires are not gonna sparkle.
No, they have to.
Unless they can put them in the
Maybe
microwave.
that one has to. It's just get
There was a blurb that you gave me that was really awesome. It's basically, we're gonna make kids pee their pants again.
Yeah,
So my kids have nightmares based off your
yeah. So you can send them to Camp Chad.
So you said that.
Your inspiration is more horror-based, whereas there's typically a lot of humor in the books that you previously written. We can't expect much humor in these.
We will try and make it as funny as possible, but it's not a humor. It's a,
That was about it.
if it was a movie, it'd be a hard R.
It'll be something probably more in the vein of like, there will be some humor in it, but it'll be more humor that's in tone with the comic.
It'll be like Aliens humor.
Yeah.
Or they're, you know, game over, man, you know, game over, what are we gonna do now? It'd be something like that. It's not gonna be like, you know, Step Brothers, where they're like, we're best friends. No.
There's not gonna be a high five at the end.
Yeah, so, yeah, exactly.
Be okay if it did.
You guys
So,
mentioned a few, and I always get really interested in like homages and inspirations. You guys mind talking about a few of yours?
well,
About homages or inspirations?
Talking about
Inspirations
covers,
and
just-
homages, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I know for, for Chad and I's book, the big homage is like anybody who's familiar with like the Silver Age horror movies and familiar like the Hammer horror films, like we're like big fans of like those Christopher Lee Draculas, you know, the Peter Cushing Frankensteins, you know, that whole thing. And like you know, to me, like Chad and I both agree, it's like there's no better Van Helsing than Peter Cushing.
Yeah.
Every Van Helsing since then has taken from Peter Cushing.
yeah. Well, and,
What about werewolves?
Japanese.
What happened to all the werewolves?
if
Werewolves
we
being
get
there
through
too.
the first arc, that's arc 2.
Yeah,
Because our next favorite movie is American Werewolf in London.
exactly.
And we're also going to time, if it works out, we're going to time jump.
Yeah.
You got a dark side.
So, well, okay, I grew up in a very religious household. So
Start to scare us.
my mom burned all my D&D books
Yeah.
when I was 12. She went to church one Sunday, came back home, and I had first edition D&D books. And she was just in the fire, and I'm like, ah! And I was crying. I was 12, I was crying. She goes, that's the devil. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and I love everyone loves their parents, but my mom, like, she just chose to be religious, like, this one time,
This is one.
Yeah. But the satanic, like, people don't realize that people don't realize the satanic panic was a very real thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are teenagers in jail for murder because they had an AC/DC poster on the wall. I swear to you, I know what's happening.
I can totally agree because like I've had relatives who like said I should never listen to Def Leppard, and then now that I'm listening to things like Ghost, they probably just have a heart attack.
And so I think it's all those years of repression, and finally we're like, my mom's not gonna read, my grandparents are dead, and my mom's not gonna read this book. So now's the time, So, and I did the one Western book for my dad. My dad, if it's a great movie, it has John Wayne. If it's a good movie, it has Clint Eastwood. If it's an okay movie, it has Charles Bronson. And that's how he's scaled. So I did one Western for my dad. This is like the first book that's for me. So
That's awesome. There's a lot of stuff like that that's stuff that I love that I threw in the final boss too. For example,
Really strong about that now.
yeah, there was a poster of it.
did your mom let you watch favorite movies? Because you grew up Mormon too.
Not quite. No, yes, I
That's
did.
what happened.
Yes,
You did?
yeah, my mom let us go to the beads at movie buffs.
Really?
Nice.
I think she rented the face.
Your mom did not burn your copies.
No. Honestly.
Okay.
But yeah, so me and Chad actually live really close to each other. Yeah, that's funny. I know that I have a lot of friends that have that, same issues, but I don't want to call them issues.
No, they are. I've been in therapy for years. We can talk about it.
I can still smell the paper burning. I was actually looking at the fact that like my parents were actually pretty cool. It was just like my neighbors that weren't quite so
Yeah, the
cool.
social was a big thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're in Utah, dude. Utah, great guys.
Yeah, I'm watching that under the banner of heaven.
Yeah. There's so many, like, what's the one on Netflix right now? My Mom's a Murderer or something like that? The one mom that killed her kids and took off, and is that a Mormon offshoot cold?
Oh, wow.
This is what happens when you have friends on panels, you sidetrack. Like, Matt,
But there's-
you get my notes. You never text me back up, did you?
We should have had a session on ADD.
That's it.
Well, back to Final Boss. So stuff that I love, like I had all the old Marvel cards where you have the statistics on the back, and I just loved that so much. I had to do that because I always just love comparing the characters and who's got the better stamina and speed, agility or whatever. So every character is going to have that with their bio, but and then I couldn't do fatality, so I did brutality. So just fun stuff like that. Like in issue 2, there's a character that owns like a mercantile shop, and he opens his jacket. What are you buying? Resident Evil kind of thing. Just random stuff that I'll throw in there from games.
Oh man. That just brings back the childhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the ringtones for my son. Everything at home is Mario right now. My son's obsessed with everything Mario.
And one of the things that influenced me growing up was the Marvel Universe comics. You guys remember those? When it was like every stat on every character in the Marvel Universe.
Oh man,
So
these
one
big
of the things
cards too.
that Jared and I talked about is basically at the end of, and we're not doing this for the presents, but when we do an issue, at the end of every issue, we're going to have like a Marvel Universe style like stats, but then we'll put in the D&D stats for the characters.
Yeah.
So you can, if you want to play the D&D, in the game.
Yeah.
Because they can't copyright a mathematic formula.
Yeah.
So we'll just say here are the numbers. Do with them whatever you will.
Yes, it's like you could make a role-playing game out of this, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And you said here this is religious inspired, but
No, so here,
He was more
funny why I did the book. So here was my idea on the book. Imagine being like, I'm still a small fish in this big pond of greatness, in my eyes. So you get called up and they're like, hey, we're all doing these books together. You got Tyler Kirkham, you got Ale Garza, you got Chad Hardin, Ben Temple-Smith, you know.
Some unknown writer.
Who else was on the first wave that we did?
Booth, what would you say?
Well, Brett Booth. Well, I was thinking even the ones that like they haven't done anything yet. But anyways, it's like
Texas
names,
already.
right?
Sure.
Now think about all those things that they are known for. Tyler Kirkham, you know, superhero. Ale, superheroes. Brett, just freaking the most insane action-packed superhero books ever. You know, I was like, I'm not doing a damn superhero book. I'm going to be like, what? Brett Booth, Tyler Kirkham, what the hell is this kid doing? Like, what is it? You know, so I decided to go a whole different way, just to not kind of blend in and go behind those shoes. I didn't want to do it. Like, I'd have been pissed off at myself.
I'm so terrified of what Ben's gonna think of our vampire book. And Ben wrote 30
Right,
Days a
so,
Night.
yeah, exactly, and I didn't even think about that when I did this.
I knew.
Because I was
I
like,
knew.
I'm
I'm
gonna
like
go
going-
darker.
Wow.
Because I'm also known for like pinups and doing, you know,
Yeah.
Dynamite books and, you know, Aspen comics, all these, you know, beautiful women books. I'm like, I'm not even gonna have the main person a girl. I'm gonna go like monsters and demons and dudes and fire and whatnot. Of course, lust is a girl, but everything else is like dark and ugly. Just because I wanted to try and do something that I have yet to be able to do. Like anytime I get hired for something, it's like, can I do the dude? They're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I'm not paying you to do the dude.
Yeah.
Like you draw women.
The
I
second-
want to do the dude.
The second I did Harley, I never did another hero again for anybody. They won't even, I'll
Well,
never,
what's funny, Jed, is we actually had a similar experience when we were first trying to actually pitch for Death Watch. Because like we were pitching to all sorts of companies who try and take it. We actually had like, I think it was like 3 or 4 companies that the first thing they said is, could you drop the guy and make it a girl?
who told us? Oh, what, I won't say, they're here.
Yeah.
Some dude.
Some company which will not be named.
Yeah.
We shall not be.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem. And like I did plenty. I did Punisher. I did Spider-Man. But because of the popularity of Harley, they will never put me back on a hero book.
On a different time.
Yeah, they'll always keep me
They don't
with.
know how they think.
They've given me Wonder Woman. They've given me like all these other things, but it will always have a female lead. Because you get typecast, just like Mark Hamill got typecast as Luke Skywalker. You know, Harrison Ford lucked out. George Lucas turned around and hired him from Indiana Jones, and he actually had a career. But everybody else in that first film, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, they could never work again because they got sort of pigeonholed. And so this is an opportunity for us to get out of that pigeonhole.
Yeah, basically that's what I did. I took the typecast. Was like, I'm gonna so all you screw off. I can still do it. I can still do dudes. It'll work.
It sounds like Artist Elite lets you get away from that pigeonhole.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty
We
common.
push
for
it.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's really good. Like everybody there, they're very encouraging to like do this, do that, give it a shot. Like you know,
Yeah.
we want everybody, each other to succeed. Even outside of our group, most artists like each other, and we want everybody to be successful.
Well, yeah,
But not every artist pushes another artist. They're like, yeah, well, I want you to do good. So good luck, buddy. Not like, let's go about it this way.
What I've loved about the whole experience thus far is the fact that there's so much freedom. I mean, I think there was only one suggestion that was given to Chad, and I just one. And you know, in hindsight, I completely agree with it. Was because when we had first initially pitched the comic, it had a different name to it. It was going to be named after the main character. And we were told, could you give it a different name? and then what's so funny is like that night, Chad calls me and he says, how about Death Watch? And at first I was a little on the fence, but then he goes and tells me this whole cool history about the Death Watch name and why it was called the Death Watch.
So yeah, in countries like Ireland, they would have a wake. Because you got to remember, like, there was no medicine. Medicine is a very recent invention. And so if somebody, people didn't know for a long time if someone was actually dead or they were drunk, or, so what they would do is if somebody they thought was dead, they'd put them on a table and they would hope that they'd wake up. But in Eastern Europe, and there was just something in the news about this,
Yeah.
they would booby trap the bodies and cut the heads off. They
yeah.
bury them in separate locations because they were afraid of vampirism.
Wow.
And so they didn't call it a wake in Eastern Europe, they called it a death watch. And so it's a person, can you imagine, you're like, I'm not dead! And someone's like, ah! But that's what they did. And so it's like, you know what, I mean, and so we were doing our research, and when I read that, I was like, this is really cool. And, but Warhammer has a book called Death Watch, but it's one word, so we had to split it. Like, if we split it, maybe they won't sue us.
I was Fallen Angel, and another creator was like, you can't be Fallen Angel, so-and-so did it. Did you not read that book? I was like, no. If I did, I wouldn't have called it Fallen Angel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So seraph is actually another, another word for angel. I was like, yeah, that works.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I had an angel project that I was slowly developing when I was in Top Gun called Downfall. And I even published a few pieces like through some of their upcoming projects, but I never went anywhere. I didn't, it was one of those things where I had to make money doing.
See, thank God I was screwed because he had already done that.
Yeah, but that was just a concept, man.
I will never talk to Ben about her book. I will never go to him and ask, like, what do you think? He just goes, let's have a beer, baby.
Okay.
He has noticed, but he has a character that looks almost exactly like Chain Pain from
Yeah.
Final Boss.
Oh.
It's so similar.
Want to get this question right over here.
Yeah, so I know like you work at the Top Cow, and you were just saying like how, I know like Sylvester and Rob Liefeld, they would grow our young artists, who were,
Yeah.
their studios. What would be like, would you guys do something similar like that nowadays?
I think eventually,
Yeah.
once we get like all of our kinks out, I'm sure somebody's gonna see somebody and be like, guys, we need to
Yeah,
bring
totally.
this dude along. Like, let's snag this guy up.
If they'll hire nobodies like me.
What it would probably be is like, it wouldn't be like Artist Elite hiring someone like that. It would be more of if one of us want to do a side story, Final Boss, like whatever side storyline. Right?
Well, yeah.
And I need an artist. I can't do both.
It's actually kind of works more that way, because that's actually how, like, Chad and I hooked up, was the fact that it's just, he wanted to do a book, he called me up, and then we just started doing this collaboration, Artist Elite just happens to be the banner it's under, but we're kind of the ones that are just,
We self-do it, like, we deal with everything ourselves. Like, if I draw the book and I need it colored, like, I'm paying for the colors.
Yeah, we're like
It's so stressful.
McFarlane,
Yeah.
Skybound, Top Cow, all the different things that are under the image banner. So we're all kind of doing our own thing, but using the group name.
But yeah.
Yeah, but under the
I would
banner
assume in
of
the
Artist
future,
Elite.
like, if I found somebody, which I did, and I'm keeping it.
He's not.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those like, hey, I think you would do good on this project. I do another book that I self-published, and I found an artist, and I was like, man, you draw, like, your style is what I wanted, and you're gonna do my own book better than I was doing it. And I'm branching him over to do some covers for Artist Elite, because he loves all these guys and likes their characters. Like, can I do that? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. We can make that happen. That's awesome.
One day, to answer your question,
Yeah.
that's me knocking on Mason.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's
I'd probably add to that just to say, just keep working on your materials, getting to know people, talk to people, because the fact of the matter is that usually if you're a nice person and you actually have good work, you will get work.
Well, and I think there's a mentality. Nobody's ever made it. That's an illusion.
yeah.
No, it really is. Like, it really is, and especially with, I've been I made the mistake of being a teacher because I somehow thought that would be easier than doing comics, or more rewarding. and now I'm just like, yeah, we're screwed as a country, so every man for themselves. But my students, they wouldn't even go to class to learn. They just wanted to go to class so they could graduate. And I'm like, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. Because you're going to have to learn it one way or another. There's no skirting it. So like even if you go and you get a job from Marvel DC, you haven't made it. You made that issue. Okay? And there's plenty of people that will go and they'll do an issue for Marvel, they'll go and do an issue for DC, and they don't ever get a book
That's it,
again.
yeah.
Because they screwed it up. Maybe they turned in their book a month too late. Or maybe they didn't call their editor back.
Yeah, we'll give you rule number 1, do not be late.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, you can't, if you can't hit your deadline, you are no good. In comics, you are no good to anyone. And then even if you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm getting steady work from DC, your job's not done. You're going to be studying anatomy till you die. You're going to be studying perspective till you die. You're going to be studying design and composition till you die. Yeah. You're going to be studying color theory till you die. And you're never going to get to the point where it's like, where you've reached something. It is a journey. It is not a destination. You're continually going to be pushing yourself. I talk to people all the time where it's like they hate their job, and it's like, why are you there then? But they trap themselves. They tell themselves they can't do it. You always have to have an attitude where it's like, I can do this. I can learn a new skill. I can improve myself. Because if you're one of these people that thinks like, oh, I'm graduated and I'm done learning, welcome to Taco Bell. Yeah.
There was a comment.
No, this starts. We already talked about.
Where you said
I think we need a sponsorship.
that there's no such thing that if you love your job, it's not work, but it has to be that passion, that fire that you have within you.
Passion's a huge part of it. Hunger.
Yeah.
I always tell kids that.
We're all
ask me,
starving
like,
artists.
Yeah. I'm starving now.
You guys talking about food.
I always tell people when they're like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Man, be hungrier than the guy in front of you. Be hungrier than the guy behind you.
That's right. Now it's leg off.
If you want something, if you want something like people, like he was saying, like people want something for nothing. Like you have to show everybody. I want it more than this guy. I'm gonna do this. He may still be better than me, but I'm gonna push harder.
Yeah.
People notice that kind of stuff.
Oh, one of my favorite artists, and I love him to death, Travis Charis. I have everything he's ever done. I don't think he's done a book in what?
Yeah, he did some
A decade?
European stuff. I don't.
Yeah, Humanoids was like the last thing
That's,
he did.
yeah. He's been doing a couple of covers here and there.
Yeah.
Right, but that's about it. But yes, he's so freaking good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
And I will buy everything he does till the day he dies, but I might only spend $20. Before I die or he dies, you'll probably outlive me. And then you look at, and this is undeserved, but I hear all the time people who are like, they'll dismiss an artist. And I think the biggest one I hear all the time, and I just want to punch people, is people will diss on Jon B Jr. And I was like, I would rather have Jon Romita Jr.'s work on my book any day than Travis Charis, because I know the work's going to get done.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how good you are if you don't produce.
Right.
You're last.
Deadlines are goal number one.
Yeah. And you got to produce. If you want to be a comic book artist, you better be drawing a page, 2 pages.
Yeah, not just cover pinups and stuff, because I see that a lot.
Hey. Man, I'm out.
Questions? Yes.
Talking to these, how is it, are you guys find it easy just to, you're just not gonna run up to bounce ideas off, back and forth off each other?
See, that's Sean, that's Comics League. We're Artist League. The way it happens a lot. I think it was actually a mistake to name it Artist League because people.
Well, that's what happened when we lost the coin toss.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
What was the other name?
There was a lot going on. Yeah. But
Sexy Dad Comics.
There we go.
I think
We got
my
60
answer
dead
is
buddies.
yes and no. Like, I know if I can bounce stuff off Tyler, ideas. I don't know how often it actually does happen, but the ability is there. And I know I do reach out to Tyler on a lot of stuff. I've reached out to Holly on a lot of stuff. Chad's too busy, he doesn't answer my phone call.
it's like, ooh, I'm an art teacher. What do you mean?
That was the worst mistake.
But like Jordan Gunderson and I, we're all doing covers with, you know, since there's 3 of us on an issue, we can all do covers and we're using each other's characters. There is bouncing around on that because we don't really know everyone's characters yet. So we kind of have to reach out, like Jordan's hit me up, like, hey, this character, like, what's this? I want to use her, like, how should this be portrayed? I think as we grow, a lot of that will change as well.
I actually do like that piece you did that actually featured our Death Watch character.
Oh, yeah.
See, I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was,
It's so much fun to see somebody else's interpretation.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. We're having fun. We're having fun. But I hope we're going to make money too.
And again, just like this panel, I may call Tyler for advice on a panel, and then at the end of it is like, so we're gonna meet at this show and we're gonna go see this boxing match, right? Like, ADD. Even if I did try to it turns from Burke to like we're planning on some trip, like later down the road.
Let's have one more question. Yep.
How did your deadlines develop your
I think all of us have. I
I've
mean,
slept in 10 years.
You've done other interiors, obviously. You've done
Yeah.
interiors. So, because we've had the experience, you know, with doing interiors and maybe working with our publishers, we've kind of built that up. But this is a little bit different because obviously the Artist League Presents is only 8 pages whenever it's our turn, really. But that will change when we're doing our full books and stuff. So.
Right now, the only thing like deadline that us as an individual has is if you're on the issue or want to do a cover, like we have a printing deadline.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
We really have no idea who's on what issues for a while unless I'm emailing the editor, like I will be done on this date. Like I will be on issue 7. What's the deadline?
The goal is to be able to rotate, you know, and hopefully we're all continuously working on our projects, and then we can put you in that slot, you know.
Yeah.
And if you didn't make it for some reason, that's on you. You're not going to be making money, obviously, for that issue, but just
You go on to the next
Well,
one.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but Sean said if we get to the point where we need to do 2 issues of Artist League Presents in a month, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So if we get to the point where there's enough content and we have to do, you know, where we're publishing 2 presents a month, we can. But if you're talking about, yeah, I mean, what Ryan said, you get that, you wake up in the morning, you get that page done, and then you do all the other shit you gotta do. And you have to have that discipline.
And you know he means business because he cursed.
Earmuffs, I forgot to say earmuffs. But no, and Todd McFarland had a really good panel the other day where he talked about like his mom. See, that was the big problem with me. I'm working from home, and I have 4 small kids and a wife, and now that the whole world had to work at home for 2 years, there's a lot more mutual understanding. But I was basically a dad from 9 till 5. And then after we had dinner and put the kids to bed, that was the first time I would get to start to draw. And I would draw from like 7 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning, take a 2-hour nap, and then get up and start the day over again. And I did that on Harley, I did that for 5 years straight. And every day was at least a page a day, at least. So, for 5 years. So if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea,
And then deadlines also.
There's teaching.
Oh, yeah. Well, then deadlines also can be different from writer to artist, because I mean, I know as a writer myself, the thing is that my deadlines are a little bit different. And I'm not downgrading writers because obviously they're my people. But the thing is, it actually is a lot quicker for a writer to finish their deadlines than it is for an artist. Because, you know, I had sat down with Chad one time, and he went and laid it out for me. He said, as an artist, they're lucky if they get out a page a day. With us writers, we can probably get out like 8 books a month if we wanted to. So the thing is that not that one's easier than the other, but it's just a whole different thing going when it's deadlines for writers and deadlines for artists.
I want to thank you all so much for your time. Artist Lead, everybody. Thank you.
Obviously, we want you guys to get the books. You can get them at comic shops, and if they don't have it, all you gotta do is just ask them. It's in the Lunar catalog. Just say, give me everything Artist Lead, put it in my whole box. Like that's that, or we sometimes we'll have stuff on the website too. So, and then obviously all of us will individually be selling copies or our own exclusives.
But support your local comic.
Definitely.
And hey, I did draw in while I was there, I was going to give it to you. Just because I feel like we've talked a lot about that topic, so.
There we go.
Y'all ain't getting nothing from me.